Hello students, I am Sanjana Kavatagi, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AITM Belgavi. Let us continue with the video lectures on computer organization. We shall study encoding of machine instructions in this video. We have studied various instructions and addressing modes. These instructions specify the actions that must be performed by the processor to carry out the desired task. So those instructions are called as machine. Such instructions are called as machine instructions. Actually, the form in which we have presented the instructions is indicative forms used in assembly level languages, except that we try to avoid using the acronyms for the various operations, which are little awkward to memorize and are likely to be specified to a particular commercial processor. So to be executed in a processor, an instruction must be encoded in a compact binary pattern. Such encoded instructions are properly referred to as machine instructions. Okay, so to execute any instruction in the processor, that instruction must be in encoded as a compact binary pattern. See, what the names we have used are all the instructions that we use. Symbolic names are called as assembly language instructions. Add, move, these are all assembly level language instruction. So when I want to execute add instruction, that add should be properly encoded into a binary pattern. Then only the machine can understand or the processor can execute that. So that type of instruction is called as machine instruction, and the instruction what we write in the program are assembly language instructions, and these assembly language instructions are converted to machine instruction using the assembler program. Okay, so with the help of the assembler, assembly level language is converted to machine level language. So in the previous sections, we made a simplifying assumption that all the instructions are one word in length. So we have so far whatever instructions we have used in any of the programs or any examples, we have assumed that all instructions are of size one word. Okay, or you can say length of one word. Since we usually refer to 32-bit words, so far what we have studied, the word size to be 32-bit or 4 bytes. So our assumption implies that this length is adequate to represent the necessary information. So we felt that this much was sufficient to represent the required information. So let us now check the validity of this assumption. Let us understand whether these assumptions were validate to assume them. Okay, let us try to understand those things. We have seen the instructions that perform operations like add, subtract, move, shift, rotate, and branch. So these instructions can use the operands of different sizes, such as 32-bit or 32-bit number, or 8-bit numbers, or 8-bit ASCII encoded characters. Okay, so the type of operation that is to be performed and the type of operands used may be specified using an encoded binary pattern referred to as the opcode, that is OP code. Opcode, it is read as opcode for the given instruction. Suppose that 8 bits are allocated for this purpose, giving a 256 possibilities for specifying different instructions. This leaves 24 bits to specify the rest of the required information. Okay, so if 8 bits are reserved for this, then 2 raised to 8 will give 256 possibilities for specifying the different instructions. Okay, so since we have a 32-bit word size, 8 bits are used for this opcode. The remaining 24 bits will specify the rest of the required information, okay, from that 32-bit word size. Okay, let us check some examples. Consider the instruction add r1 comma r2. This has to specify the registers r1 and r2 along with the opcode. Okay, so if the processor has 16 registers, then 4 bits are needed to identify each register. Okay, so additional bits are needed to indicate that the register addressing mode is used for each of the operand. Okay, so 4 bit 8 bits will be used for the register, mentioning the register, and the remaining bits will be needed to indicate that the register addressing mode is used for the each of the operand. Okay. Next instruction. Consider move 24 of R0, R5. Okay, this requires 16 bits to denote the opcode and the two registers. Okay, and some bits to express that the source operand uses the index addressing mode and the index value is 24. Okay, 16 bits are used for opcode and two registers. Okay, and some bits are used to show that the source operand is making use of the index addressing mode. Okay, we have the number 24 here, immediate value, index value, so that index value is 24 now. Okay, so it is making use of the index addressing mode. Okay, now suppose that there are 3 bits are used to specify an addressing mode that we have seen previously, then 6 bits have to be available for this purpose. Okay, so denoting the chosen addressing modes of the source and destination operands. Okay, suppose we think that 3 bits are used to indicate the which addressing mode is used for source and for for destination. So it is 3 plus 3, 6 bits are used for this purpose. So then hence there are 10 bits left to give the index value. Okay, and if these 10 bits suffice to express an adequate range of the signed numbers for indexing purposes, then the instruction fits into 32-bit word. Okay, so 16 bits for opcode and 6 bits for indicating the index addressing mode. So 16 plus 6 will be 22, and then remaining will be 10 bits. Okay, so if these 10 bits are used to indicate the signed integer, that is the index value, then our this instruction will fit into 32-bit size. Okay, now let us consider shift instruction L shift R. Okay, hash 2 comma R0. Okay, let us consider the shift instruction L shift R, that is logical shift right, hash 2 comma R0, and the move instruction move hash 3a comma R1. These have to indicate the immediate values 2 as well as $3a, okay, respectively. That is the hexadecimal notation 3a. In addition to the 18 bits used to specify the opcode, the addressing modes and the register. So all these are included in remaining 18 bits. So this limits the size of the immediate operand to what is expressible in 14 bits. Okay. So next let us consider the branch instruction. Branch greater than 0, then loop. Okay, so again 8 bits are used for the opcode, which leaves the 24 bits to specify the branch offset. Okay, and since the offset is of a 2's complement number and the branch target address must be within the 2 raised to 23 bytes of the location of that branch instruction. Okay, so to branch to an instruction outside of this range, a different addressing mode has to be used, such as absolute or register indirect. And then branch instruction that use these modes are usually called jump instruction. Okay, branch moving to that particular address or jumping to that particular address, so those instructions are called as jump instructions. So in all of these examples what we have seen, the instruction can be encoded into a 32-bit word. Okay, so the instructions can be encoded into a 32-bit word. In the figure you can see it shows a possible format. So there is an 8-bit opcode field and two 7-bit fields for specifying the source and the destination operands. Okay, so the 7-bit field identifies the addressing mode and the register involved if there are any. Okay, and the other info field allows us to specify the additional information that may be needed, such as the index value or an immediate operand, etc. Okay, so we have opcode, source, destination, and other information. Okay, so opcode is making use of the 8 bits Source and destination will be allotted 7 bits, and other information like any immediate value or index value for assigned integer number, the 10 bits are reserved. So this is in one word instruction. Okay, so one word instruction means 32 bits. Okay. Next, so but what happens if we want to specify a memory operand using the absolute addressing mode? So consider an example, move r2 comma location. So this requires 18 bits to denote the opcode and addressing modes and the register. So this leaves 14 bits to express the address that corresponds to location, okay, which is clearly insufficient. So if we want to be able to give a complete 32-bit address in the instruction, then only one solution is to include a second word as part of this instruction. So in which case the additional word can contain the required memory address. Okay, so I can make use of the another word wherein I'm going to store only the location of the memory address. Okay, so this suitable form is shown in the second figure B, that is two word instruction. Okay, so the first word may be the same as the above figure, which has opcode, source, destination and other information, and the second field or second so you can say it is a full memory address. Okay, so this format can also accommodate instructions like and one example we had seen in the last video, that is hash ff 000000 comma r2, in which case the second word will give a full 32-bit immediate operand. Okay, when the size of the operand is more, then you may have to make use of another word only to store the complete address. Okay. Now, suppose if we want to allow an instruction in which two operands can be specified using the absolute addressing mode, consider the example move location 1 comma location 2. Okay, so in such cases it becomes necessary to use two additional words for the 32-bit addresses of the operands. Since we are using two memory locations, we need two words for the 32-bit addresses of the operands. So this approach results in instructions of variable length dependent on the number of operands and the type of addressing modes used. So using multiple words, we can implement quite complex instructions like the operations in high level programming languages. The term CISC, that is complex instruction set computer, has been used to refer processors that use the instruction sets of this type. There also exist different alternatives to this approach. If we insist that all the instructions must fit into a single 32-bit word, it is not possible. It is not possible to provide a 32-bit address or a 32-bit immediate operand within that particular instruction. But it is still possible to define a highly functional instruction set which makes extensive use of the processor registers. So we can have add r1 comma r2, but we cannot have add location comma r2. So instead of this second instruction, we can use add location of r3 or the contents of r3 comma r2, provided that we load the address location into register 3, that is nothing but r3 is containing the location here, address location here, before the instruction is executed. So in this case, the register R3 is being used as a pointer to the desired memory location. This gives rise to the issue of how to load a 32-bit address into a register that serves as a pointer to memory locations. So one possibility is to direct the assembler to place the desired address in a word location in a data area close to the program. Then the relative addressing mode can be used to load this address. Okay, so this assumes that the index field contained in the load instruction is large enough to reach the location containing the desired address. Another possibility is to use logical and shift instruction to construct the desired 32-bit address by giving it in parts that are small enough to be specifiable using the immediate addressing mode. So making use of the logical and shift instructions, we can do this. Okay, that is by giving it in parts which are small enough to enough to specify using the immediate addressing mode. So this issue is considered in more detail. We can when we study ARM processor, but it is not there for syllabus. Okay, so all such ARM instructions are encoded into a single 32-bit word. The restriction that an instruction must occupy only one word has led to a style of computers that have become known as reduced instruction set computers, RISC. Okay, the RISC approach introduced other restrictions also, all manipulations of data must be done on operands that are already in the processor registers. So this restriction means that the above addition would need a two instruction sequence like what we have seen in the previous slide, that is add r1 comma r2. This will need a two instruction sequence, that is move r3 comma r1. Okay, move r3 comma r1, that is content into brackets r3 comma r1, and then add r1 comma r2. Okay, so if the add instruction only has to specify two registers, it will need just a portion of the 32-bit word. So we may provide a more powerful instruction that uses three operands, that is add r1 comma r2 comma r3, which performs the operation contents of r1 plus contents of r2, which is going to be stored into r3. Okay, that is three address instruction what we have studied previously. So a possible format for such instruction is shown in the figure C. Okay, you can see that figure. Of course, the processor has to be able to deal with such three operand instructions. So in an instruction set where all the arithmetic and logical operations use only register operands, the only memory references are made to load or store the operands into or from the processor registers. So this completes the topic. Thank you for watching.